Welcome back to Tethered and Whole. I'm Matt. Today we're going to start with a story. Long ago in ancient China, there's a story about an emperor who lived in a porcelain palace surrounded by exquisite gardens, a place so beautiful that travelers from around the world came just to see it. Yet, when they returned home, what they actually wrote about and what they remembered wasn't the palace at all. It was the song of a simple nightingale that lived outside the palace walls. It was a song that fishermen heard every evening as they worked, and a beauty that the emperor himself he'd never noticed it. Yet when those stories reached him, he asked his court why no one had told him about the bird, only to discover that the only person who truly knew her song was a humble kitchen maid. And when he asked her about it, she led him into the forest where the nightingale sang and captivated everyone. The emperor was so moved that he placed the bird in a gilded cage to keep that beauty close, until one day a jeweled mechanical nightingale arrived from the Japanese court, sparkling with diamonds and rubies and dazzling everyone with its perfection, with its repeatable imitation of the nightingale's song. The real bird was forgotten. Praise replaced presence, novelty replaced authenticity. And then, inevitably, of course, the mechanical bird broke, left the emperor alone, declining in health, and on his deathbed, the real nightingale returned, free and unknown, perched in his window and sang him back to life before flying off again, offering a gift that was authentic, enduring, and never meant to be possessed. Hans Christian Andersen wrote that story in 1843, but if we're honest, it feels painfully current because we are constantly tempted by the mechanical nightingales of our own time, the shiniest tools, the newest systems and tech, the next purchase, the next achievement. And we're constantly mistaking novelty for happiness, when what we're really often longing for is contentment, that quiet state where, for just a moment, we desire nothing more than what already is. Psychologist Tim Bono captures this beautifully with his happiness equation. According to him, happiness equals what we have divided by what we want. Because when our wants grow faster than our haves, happiness shrinks. But when we loosen our grip on wanting, contentment expands. This is where it helps to distinguish between pleasure and enjoyment. Pleasure tends to happen to us, while enjoyment is something we actively create through effort and through engagement. Pleasure is often personal, while enjoyment is shared. Pleasure satisfies our biology, while enjoyment stretches us into growth, meaning, and connection. Philosophers have wrestled with this tension for centuries. Aristotle reminding us that true happiness, or eudaimonia, isn't a feeling, but the activity of living well and in alignment with virtue and purpose. While Epicurus, often misunderstood, argued that happiness comes not from indulgence, but from modest desires, from friendship, and the absence of unnecessary disturbance. These perspectives converge on the same truth, that lasting well-being doesn't come from more. It comes from alignment. And paradoxically, happiness is often found when we stop chasing it. The more we pursue happiness as a goal, the more we find ourselves on what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill, endlessly adapting to the next thing, the next win, the next reward, only to return to baseline and want again. While research consistently shows that happiness arises more quietly through presence, gratitude, and living in alignment with our values. This is where joy enters the conversation, not as a fleeting pleasure tied to circumstance, but as a deeper state rooted in meaning, connection, and belonging. And alongside joy sits contentment, its quieter companion, not flashy or loud, but steady, sustainable, and deeply regulating. Contentment isn't complacency. It's recognition of enough. The ability to savor rather than scan, to notice rather than compare, to appreciate rather than accumulate. And for educators especially, Contentment might look like pausing to acknowledge a small breakthrough with a student, celebrating progress instead of perfection, and choosing gratitude over comparison. When we cultivate contentment, we step off the hedonic treadmill and reclaim a steadier sense of well-being. So here's a simple practice to carry with you this week. Ask yourself what wants or desires you could gently let go of to increase your happiness. Start small, maybe by cleaning out one drawer, one folder, one corner of your space, because a decluttered environment often leads to a decluttered mind. And then, at the end of a long day, resist the urge to numb or isolate and instead regain your equilibrium by connecting with another person or engaging in an activity that stretches you just enough to remind you that you are alive and you're growing and already enough. Because the real nightingale was never one that sparkled the most. It was the one that sang when it mattered, freely, authentically, and right on time. Thanks for joining me this week. I wish you happiness in your day today, and I'll see you next time on Tethered and Whole.